back again. The great Mark Puttenvink. You guys know him, like Mr. Tan, Mr. Fitness.
Like George Hamilton.
Yeah, George Hamilton. That's right. That's right. George Hamilton. That's a good one. I like that. You know what I'm realizing more and more? You got a pretty good sense of humor, I realize.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. That's what's kept me around so long, or else people would have killed me a long time ago.
All right. So Mark has got, once again, he's got his company called Patriot Training Systems. He trains everybody from Navy SEALs to housewives at home. Actually, the housewives at home are just as tough as the Navy SEALs, so out of shape. So you can train anybody. We have a good time on this show talking about all sorts of training stuff and fitness and everything. So just again, really quick, it's coming up, the event. We just had a show last week with Kenny Bigby Jr., former Navy SEAL, who's participating in the swim across the Hudson. That's to go to benefit GIGoFund.org. So there's what, 130 Navy SEALs and other people swimming?
Well, I think the total, I'm hearing numbers over 200.
Oh, wow.
In total. So it's going to be quite an event. There's some other surprises that you know about, but we won't say to the public. That's going to be really, it's just going to be a phenomenal day for many, many reasons. And, the underlying one is it's to honor our LEO and first responders, because this is the 20th anniversary of 9/11 coming up. And then also, Extortion 17, which is where the first really large loss of life in Afghanistan with the SEAL community. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's a patriotic day, as you always say, Tom. It's unbelievably moving, and the sheer volume and the size of this year's enormity is tremendous.
Yeah. So again, guys, if you can get over there, it's Liberty State Park we're leaving from?
Correct. Yeah. There will be a sightseeing boat. I don't know exactly how you get on that. My suggestion would be to go to GIGoFund.org, and they'll have it laid out there if you want to go and attend. If
you can get out there, guys, and listen, obviously we'd like you to donate at bare minimum. It's a great cause with the military, first responders, and everything. But to go to the event, seriously, it'll change you. You cannot not be changed when you see this. It's quite an event. The patriotism, the men and women, and I think some people too. I've really got to spend a lot of time with Navy SEALs. I know you do. It's Mark as well. And maybe I think we have the misconception about them that they're just these hard ass guys, whatever. These are very intelligent, thoughtful men. Yes, they're tough men. They're great shape and everything. But by interacting with them, they really. Our buddy Kenny Bigby Jr., obviously he shows that he's he's really, he's gotten better and better, the whole motivational thing. You notice that how he's evolved too?
Very, very, very intelligent guy. Really smart. And all the SEALs, as you mentioned, Tom, we get hung up in the physicality of it and the tremendous things they can do. But the amount of training, they call it training up. So if they're not deployed, they're training. So they're either deployed or training. And when they're training, they're coming back and they're learning something, like maybe in their particular realm different.
I like too how they train to failure, right? Because they want to know where that failure point is. So when they're out there, they're not surprised by anything. And obviously they're always trying to improve as well. And what is it? If they go on a 6-month deployment, they train for 18 months too, right?
Generally speaking, it's an 18-month, what they call training up, and then they'll go over. Because the SEALs, and I don't want to talk too much on it because I don't want to speak out of school. I don't really know the intricacies of it because I'm a civilian. But I'll say this much, that all their missions are offensive. They don't really do defensive missions. Yeah. So when they're deployed, everything is they're out there for one reason only. Yeah.
I know I've told the story before, but I did a show with Kenny Bigby Jr., I think maybe the first or second time I met him. And we were talking about life in general, but what I've learned in hockey and some of the applications part of life. And we were talking about closing the gap. And he was listening. I could see he was listening. He's like, wow, that was cool. It's the same thing like you're talking there. They don't wait for the problem to come to them. They close the gap on the problem, right? So in hockey terms, obviously, I'm a defensive defenseman. Mark's carrying the puck. I don't want to give him room to do what he wants to do. I'm going to close the gap on him. And and again, I think that's the same way in life with problems that are facing you and everything too. And it's the same way for the military, for the Navy SEAL community as well, all the military, but good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, certainly things we do in life, like for instance, sport, hockey being one of them, there can be tactical, I don't want to say application, but tactical similarities,
Sure.
Defense wins kind of mindset, but team, and as we mentioned before, and Kenny has mentioned many times, they don't have a plan B; they have a contingency.
Yeah.
So, but they very rarely have to hit that contingency because they gather so much intel, and the preparation before emissions events also. So they know down to just about everything. But they do live in a world of VUCA, which is an acronym I've only become recently familiar with, but it really is a great one. And it's great for coaching. It's VUCA, which is vulnerability, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So in other words, pretty much things can change real fast, and you better be have a contingency plan.
And that is life, right? I mean, that is life. You gotta, like you said, you've got plan A. Plan A is your plan, but you still may have to vary that plan along the way. You still want to get to the same point from point A to point B, but it's how you get there may have to change too. So yeah.
But the VUCA that I kind of think that's a great acronym. And really, if you're a hockey coach or any kind of coach, you have a game plan, but you're still, there's vulnerability, there's uncertainty, there's complexity, and there's ambiguity. Can't say that word.
Nice word.
Yeah.
But and that is true. Like, we're going to touch on some other stuff for training, but to me, that's one of the best coaches too, that they let the players learn the game themselves so that they can make adjustments on the fly instead of waiting on the coaches yelling all the time what you're supposed to do. The player never really learns it that way. It's let the player make his own mistakes.
That's a great point. And I don't know who it was. It was Kenny Hitchcock maybe said, practice time, my time.
Yeah.
It was game time. It's your time. I'm just going to manage you guys.
Yeah. Our buddy Barry Shelley, speaking of veterans.
Yeah.
Here are the two beasts. There you go. What's Ron's got here? Ron, correct me if I'm wrong. Are you a veteran as well? Evaluate, adapt, overcome.
Yeah, I like that. Yep.
Yeah. I believe Ron's a veteran too, and I apologize. I don't remember.
If he's saying that. Yeah, so all these acronyms, and if people just kind of read through some military stuff, you may not understand all of it. I certainly don't. But the general concepts are tremendous. The VUCA, with this gentleman. Navy,
Thanks very much, Ron. I figured you were. I apologize for not remembering.
Yeah. Thank you for your service.
Yeah. But Ron's a good guy. Ron's a Buffalo guy too. Sorry about that, Ron.
And that's like the OODA loop, which we've talked about when I talked about situational awareness, which actually came from a fighter pilot. Came up with that acronym, which is observe, orient, decide, act. And we're doing it all day long. We just don't know. But when you're driving a car, you observe a car changing lanes, you orientate yourself to that car, you decide to move over to the next lane, and then you actually do it. And in the world of, and especially in combat, it's an incredibly important concept to have.
Right, definitely. All right, we're going to talk a little bit of training here. We're going to shift gears a little bit. We want to talk about what's better, being fast or being quick.
Yeah. So the general concept is, do we want to be, as an athlete, do we want to be fast or do we want to be quick or do we want to be both? And I think obviously the answer is, you'd like to be both. But I think what we have to do is delineate between being fast and being quick. So being fast is generally measured in a linear fashion. So in football, it's a 40-yard dash. That's a standard test that they utilize. It's actually called the dash for cash. You could be really top scores in all the other bench press, and if you don't have a fast 40, you're not playing football. But anyhow, so that's a linear, that's fast. But does a football player run 40 yards in a straight line ever in a game? Absolutely never happen. Maybe on a field goal coverage, or kickoff coverage or a punt. But other than that, even then you're going around people. So what is quickness? Quickness is getting to point A, B, and C as quick as you can. And in our game, we're always talking about small area gains. So it's incredibly important in hockey that you're quick. But it's also important that you're fast, because if you get caught deep and you got to go 200 feet back to get back to the house, then you have to be fast. So the question becomes, how do we differentiate our training so that we cover both trying to be as fast as we can, also trying to be as quick as we can. And when we talk about being quick, then we start to talk about multi-directional change, agility, athleticism, some other things come into play. But there's specific training protocols that we can utilize for both of those to bring us to our maximum speed and our maximum quickness. So
what exercises could you do in a gym to train yourself to be quick to start with?
To be quick would be explosive movements, because rapid deceleration and change of direction really, if we think about it, if I'm skating really hard and the play goes the other way, I'm going to hit my brakes. So I'm going from an accelerated point to a braking point. But when we brake, we're absorbing all that energy and we're storing that energy, and now we want to reload it in the other direction. So squats, explosive kind of squats, where you're going to do a pause squat, where you're going to come down, sit with a load for 1,001, and then explode up. And obviously you have to use the right weight for this. And there's this specific rep schedule. You probably don't want to do a lot of reps with that. But so that's the same thing. So now if I'm playing basketball, I'm running down the court, and again, the play goes the other direction, I'm going to stop. I'm going to bend my knees. I'm going to preload, and then I got to get the energy going in the other direction. In hockey, we have change the direction and play, but we also have it, down low, a lot of multi-directional skate there, skate here, skate everywhere. So plyometrics are important for quickness also, Tom, because again, it gets back to that loading and releasing of the energy.
Okay. And one thing, when I played, again, we were not nearly as educated as they are now, but we would always get sore groins coming to training camp.
Absolutely.
I could be in great shape. Your cardio could be great, but just inevitable that you're going to get bad groins. The guy's doing a lot of stuff to prevent that now.
Yeah, so that's been one of the shoulder injuries, and groins are probably the two most common injuries in hockey at all levels. So interestingly enough, I tore my left one so bad that 2 weeks later I saw purple and black. It took that long for the blood to come up. And then once you tear one, you're going to tear the other one. It's inevitable. Yeah. And I happened to be with the Rangers, and I tore one, or aggravated it pretty bad. I didn't tear it, but I re-injured it. And we were in Florida, and they had a guy there, their strength guy said, hey, go see John. He does active release therapy, which is really painful, but it really works. So he told me the reason that he thinks, and his research showed, that we pull groins is because we're on 1/8 of an inch of steel. So it's a balancing act. Mm-hmm. And when our gluteus minimus, that's a smaller part of our butt, fatigues, then our groin goes.
Hold on, we got a minimus? I thought it was just a maximus.
Well, it depends. But yeah, so it's like a roof. It's leaking here, but the leak is really over there. So when your gluteus minimus fatigues, then your groin's going to bear the brunt of it, and you're going to injure it.
So then, to prevent the groin injury, you would work your glutes more?
Work your glutes. Be cognizant of, any kind of weakness that you feel there when you're skating. It's hard to say, Tom. To prevent it entirely is probably impossible. Yeah. Because of the stops and starts. But if you do train in a fashion where you're doing a lot of stops and starts in the weight room, again, those pause squats, things of that nature, you're going to build up your glutes, and you're going to prevent that from happening earlier on. I mean, it's usually a fatigue injury.
Yeah, it is too. Yeah, it's not like sometimes it's a one-time thing, but usually it's over a period of time. You're grinding it out. Right. Yeah. Okay, so we talked about what to do to help your quickness in the gym. How about if you want to be faster?
Again, squats, but in a routine fashion. Because if you watch the Olympics tonight, watch all the track and field, especially the sprinters, what's the first thing you're going to notice? They have huge butts, because that's where your speed comes from. That's where the power comes from. Your jumping power and your running power and your skating power. I mean, look at hockey players. Yeah. You guys got to wear bigger waist pants, not because the waist got big, it's because your ass is so big, pardon my friend. Yeah. It's really the truth, though. And so that just drives home the point that really your speed and your power comes, and glutes are very large muscles.
Yeah. It's funny, like Wayne Gretzky too, and I say this as a compliment to him. He had basically no muscle in his upper body whatsoever. He didn't work on his upper body at all, but his butt and legs were just like he's like a sprinter. Yeah. All muscle. Yeah.
Do you remember Manny Malhotra?
Yeah, I remember Manny.
That kid was built like a Greek god. Yeah. And like you could break a baseball bat over his butt. That's how strong that kid was. Yeah. So, but I mean, that's really, I mean, we could sit here for hours talking about how, there's technique to skating and running that'll make you faster. But from a physiological standpoint, not a neurological standpoint, certainly squats, deadlifts, anything that is really overloading the lower butt, your glutes, your hip flexors, those are so critical to speed.
Yeah. This is and I'm meaning more the players I watch today because they are such good athletes and they're so quick out there. The one criticism I have, this is more from a coaching standpoint, not a training standpoint. They're in such a hurry to get to a location, to get someplace. They rush to that, like, especially in the defensive zone. I see a lot of that where it's especially like the guys behind the net. Well, he's not going to score from behind the net. And again, this is my teaching thing. Like you called it before, the net is the house, the slot is the house. It's all that area, all the scoring areas are where you've got to worry about. So don't be in such a hurry. And again, fantastic athletes, it almost hurts them sometimes because they're so good and so fast now. They leave an area quickly to get to another area, and they're really not thinking, okay, the head's not on the swivel. They're not saying, okay, is this guy a danger right now? Yes, he's my man, but he's not in a danger area. So why am I rushing to him right away? Right. And I think you see a lot of that. And again, it's a compliment to the players that they're such fantastic athletes that they just move much more quickly. It almost hurts them in some ways. But
I agree. I think you hit it on the head. They're better athletes. They're in most cases longer now. Like the defensemen are longer with their stick.
Yeah.
So they could kind of overplay the man, still make a play with the stick. But to your point, you're right. There's a lot of times where they're running when they shouldn't have to. They just. But I think it's also the age. You look at the National Hockey League, Tom, right?
Yeah. Young kids. Yeah.
Kids. I mean, you played at least 2 years in the American League, especially on the blue line before you made it,
Well, that's why it's so amazing what Fox did for the Rangers this year. To play with the poise that he played with. It wasn't just that he was a great athlete, but you watch his game. He does the opposite of what I was talking about before. He's smart to go to the puck. He's under control. He's poised with the puck. Well, he's for his age. For any age.
There's a kid that I love watching only because I'm a little guy. Is a kid in Minnesota, Spongin.
Oh yeah,
he is so smart with his skating because I don't think he weighs 170 pounds. He's really a small guy, but his skating and even when he works on the wall, battles, you watch how he uses his body position. He doesn't overcommit where he's so easy for a bigger guy just to stick and pin him.
Yeah.
But he's still competitive because he's smart enough to work his angle, and I really enjoy watching that kid. Yeah.
That's kind of like life too, right? I mean, it's like sometimes people in such a hurry to get someplace. You got to learn your trade first. You want to be president of the company, but you got a lot of things. And listen, everybody, I'm as bad as anybody. I'm 63 years old now, and I've learned so much like in the last 5 years doing all the True Grit Life stuff and writing a book. I'm sure you're the same way, and I think that's good. You always want to learn. You always want to get better.
So. One of the thoughts or philosophies in martial arts is you're never a teacher. You're always a student. And Daniel Inosanto, who was Bruce Lee's training partner, they both met in LA. Okay. Bruce obviously was Chinese and Daniel was Filipino. And Daniel still carries the JKD with Jeet Kune Do, which is what Bruce Lee developed, where he took what he thought the best parts of different martial arts were, put it together, and it's JKD. It's very, very effective, and it's a very popular martial art. But anyhow, Inosanto just got his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he's 85 years old.
Oh, is that right? I love that stuff.
Black belt. I mean, he's got like 60, 70 years of experience in all kinds of black belts. But because BJJ is relatively the new kid on the block when we talk about martial arts, and BJJ, you don't get your black belt like in a year. It's usually much longer, probably at least closer to 10 to 12 years. Right. So he just got it at 85 years of age. So there you go. You just never.
That's classic. I love that when you see somebody like that that's 85 and they still want to learn. And,
incredible.
I think it's so important. Like, and you've taught me a lot of stuff too, but I mean, just this whole process for me, like I feel better about getting out of my comfort zone all the time. Like I try to make a habit, like little stuff, you're taking a nice hot shower. Well, for the last 2 or 3 minutes, and you talked about this, you turn it to ice cold, right? Yeah. And you think, so why do? But if you get in that habit of doing things like that, getting out of the comfort zone all the time, it's amazing how much more you can get out of life, I think.
Well, I also think whether it's hockey or it's boxing or whatever, if you put yourself in different environments. So in other words, this morning I went and I don't know how many rounds I did shadow boxing. I did it in the woods though. I didn't do it in the ring on a nice flat surface. Yeah. Because now you got to be aware of your footing and balance, everything like that. And truth of the matter is, I'm a lover, I'm not a fighter, but chances are I'll get into a fight on uneven ground before I get into a fight in a ring.
Yeah, totally.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
But
isn't it true? Like, go ahead, finish.
Oh no, I wanted to get back to the quickness, but before we get to that,
Oh no, I'm just rambling on different stuff here. So go back to that.
so with the quickness, over the years, for quite a while now, we've been using a ladder for different types of ladder drills, and I have a different thought on a ladder. I like the ladder drills as a general warm up, just to get your blood.
So you're talking about the ladder drills like on the floor, so
where you run through the ladder, with different foot patterns.
Yep.
I think it's a great utilization of a tool to warm up because it's athletic. You're firing a lot of musculature. You're doing some kind of athletic movements. I think it stops there. I think sometimes we started to rely on that to develop quickness. Here's the problem: that's not really how we operate on the ice or on the field.
Yeah.
We're not doing a karaoke. We're doing cross unders on the ice, but we're not doing a karaoke. So I think it's a great tool to use for a warm up. I think you're better suited with just multi-directional drills, either audible commands, visual commands, combinations of commands, but to develop that stop and start and being able to read and react. And that's read and react in every sport. I don't care if it's football, hockey, basketball, baseball, whatever it is. That's a critical neurological component to your game and where your game's going to go.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I do agree with you. Yeah. So let me ask this then. So you've got your choice of being on the ice, working to be quicker in terms of hockey, whether it's football, obviously the field or whatever, or you can go to the gym. And again, you can only choose one here. Is the gym better to improve your quickness, or the actually being on the ice, is that better to improve your quickness?
Because hockey is such a unique sport, you'd be better off on the ice. Because now it's the thing about ice hockey, and I think you'll support me in this. You can never stop getting better with your skating.
Yeah.
Like how many NHLers still continue to use a power skating coach, and maybe they've been in the league for 12 years. They still go back and see the power skating coach over the summer.
Yeah. Laura Stam.
Pardon? Yeah, Laura Stam.
Yeah.
There's so many great ones out there.
Yeah.
Robbie Glance is another name that comes to mind. But the point is, another friend of mine, Mark, I always have a hard time with his last name. He's with the Rangers, the little guy, Mark Colachico. He's right here from Suffolk.
Oh, yeah.
Years. Great guy. And anyhow, so I would prefer to do you set up drills that are going to be drills that's similar to ones you do in the gym with cones and multi-directional. But now you can throw in a puck, you can throw in a player on you. So I think it's a little bit different. I think in the gym, though, if you can get your core work, and I don't mean the part of your body core, but the core in terms of the part of your workout, on explosive movements, you're going to be really better at stopping and starting. And that's really, in all the sports, it's critical.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to really work on your quickness on the ice, I mean, you really need to work on your technique too, right? Like if you're a skater that doesn't bend your knees enough or something, you really have to get down to that.
And Captain Jack Blatherwick, I don't know who he worked, what skating coach, because it's been so long, but they used to, really encourage taking a digger, because that means you brought your comfort level up and you pushed it enough. And, that's
so everybody doesn't know, we've talked about him before, but Jack Blatherwick, I met him through Herb Brooks when Herb came, and we used to love Jack because Herb was that tyrant, actually it's funny. I just started the show. I was on with Herb's daughter, and my book, there's a lot of pictures of Herb. So I just make sure she understood I was doing that. She was fine. She was actually very happy that we're going to have so much of Herb in there, but Herb was the tyrant, right? He's yelling, he's mad. He's got all the stuff he's saying to us. And but Jack was there, specifically to say, no, this is when we're training. This is when we're going to skate. We're not going to skate because Herb's mad. We're going to skate because this is the perfect day to train, right? They're conditioning. And he's very soft. I think he did it on purpose, very soft, calm and everything. I think he knew he had to be like that because Herb was such a bad man.
Yeah, but, in fact, I should have brought, I'll show you next time. I still have Jack's book here. Overspeed Training. Yeah. Probably in the 80s I got that.
Yeah. And that's, good subject there too. So just to touch on that. So a lot of coaches, they get their discipline is bad. The teams aren't working hard enough or whatever. And they think the way to get them to do what they want to do is to skate them, bag skate, as we used to call it, right? Back and forth, back and forth. Well, a few things that I have a problem with. First of all, you're now, these young athletes in particular, you're trying to teach them that conditioning is a bad thing. They've done something wrong, so now they're conditioning. We don't want that. We want them to love conditioning. It's a fun thing to do, right? So that's the bad precedent you're setting. But it just doesn't work. I mean, to me, the biggest thing, if a player isn't doing what he wants to do, the team's not playing the way you want, it's ice time.
Yep.
And you can't always do that in youth sports. I get it. But if a player's not playing hard enough, you need to explain to him and say, listen, you're not doing what I want you to do. I'm going to give you a chance to go do it again. If he continues to not do it, you take away ice time. Kids want to play.
One of the things I heard years ago, I forget who it was, but he said, so in the NHL, you have a head coach and usually 2 assistants. You talk to your assistant and say, listen, go up to player B and tell him not happy with his game. So the assistant says it. So now the guy, forget who it was, but he said, now when I call him in my office, I said, and I tell him he's going down to the American League, he was warned.
Yeah, totally.
He was warned, and I think the way you can handle that in youth hockey is just you probably not, maybe you have an assistant, have the assistant. If you don't have one, you just talk to the kid and say, hey, listen, what are you doing?
Right. And again, we do need to remember with kids and even young players in the NHL to a certain age, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to look back at things and go, why was I doing that? But you're a kid. That's what you do. You make mistakes. Right?
I don't know if I told you this, but on Facebook about a year or 2 ago, a kid I coached, long time ago, found me on Facebook and he friended me and said, hey, how you doing? And he wrote me this long letter, like why he's apologizing for being a tough kid to handle. I know it was a lot. You were a really good coach. I didn't know it at the time. I said, Billy, I didn't have a problem with you. I loved your spirit. Yeah. That's why I put you where you were, because you were an energy guy. You were really, you know. Totally. So, and that's part of it too. A coach has to understand, I think, when you do have a kid that's a lot of energy and hard to kind of corral, turn that into a positive if you can. Yeah. Put them in a position where that's going to be benefiting the team.
Right. Yeah. And the good thing you're going to get from that, I'm assuming this is the case with Billy, you're making a difference in his life too. You're taking a kid that's maybe got a little bit of a wild edge to him. You're saying, okay, I get it. But let's steer you in the right direction. I had another kid too. I probably did tell a story, but a young guy, I'm so proud of him now. He's married, child, and the whole business. His name is Max Como. Fantastic, big kid. And they had the rule where if you get 5 penalties, you're suspended for the next game.
Right.
And Max, and the parents didn't understand. Some of the other parents didn't understand why I liked it so much, because he was always getting to the 3rd and 4th penalty, and I would always have to sit him on the bench. But he did most of the time. He was taking a penalty because he was defending his teammates. And I was saying, okay, I get it. He's not doing it the right way, but his motive is fantastic. His heart's in the right place. So one game we got to the point, this is after the long season of him always getting that 3rd or 4th penalty. I think he got to 4 penalties. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to sit him on the bench. He's safe. He can't get another penalty. Well, he takes his glove off. He puts it on the end of his stick. And he puts the middle finger up on the glove. He doesn't have the finger in the glove. And the referee comes by and he sticks the glove up in front of the referee's face. I couldn't help it. I was dying laughing. The referee was dying laughing. He's looked up to me and I go, oh, God, you got to do what you got to do. He said, and he laughed after. He says, that's one of the funniest things he's ever seen. And, obviously I got to go to Max and say, Max, meantime I'm laughing. Well, Max, maybe you shouldn't do that next time. Right. And he's like that on and off the ice. He was getting in trouble sometimes, but he went in the Army. Yeah, really straightened out his life, and again, beautiful wife. Just had a child a little while ago. I love the kid. He was fantastic. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think I'm so far removed from being a young kid. I forget what a problem I probably was at that age as well. So.
Oh yeah, totally. Oh, I think it's some of the stuff I still make mistakes, but I think some of the stuff I did. Interesting doing the book where I look at some of the decisions I made, and it's interesting when you're making that decision. You think back, I actually thought that was the right thing to do. Looking back at it now, you're going. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So going back to the quickness, Tom, one of the on ice drills I really enjoyed doing was you put a player, it doesn't matter if he's a forward or a D-man, you have him on the blue line facing the net, and you stand behind him, and you do either a stick tap or a verbal command, and you put a puck either between his legs or to his right, to his left, and he's got to jump and read and react on that puck and then drive the net. And you could do that from like I would do it anywhere on the ice. With D-man, I used to have them, their back turned to me, and then put it in the corner somewhere, and then they had to spin and get it. I'm sorry, facing me, and then So those are the kinds of things. But again, to supplement and make and magnify that is the weight room, is the explosive squatting, the explosive plyometrics, because that's really strength and neurological gains.
Here's a skating skill question for you. So you're at a standstill. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think more now they teach you to not do a crossover off the start. So have your body. So if you're going to go to the left, have your body facing straight ahead, but then you go to your left. They teach you more now to get that V going on, right? Do you agree with that, or what do you think? The crossover?
I've never seen it ever work.
Yeah. What, the crossover?
Well, not the crossover. Are you talking about the starting V where they put the toes together and they get up and they take off from there?
No. So you more the toes will be pointing out. So it's more like so a lot of the old theory was when I was a kid, the crossover was a wasted stride almost. Mm-hmm. That's the theory. So get right into your skating stride, facing straight ahead where you want to go. Legs maybe shoulder apart, shoulder width apart, and now your toes are skating. So you're taking a stride right away. Mm-hmm. I don't know, something about the crossover made it seem faster though. I don't know why that is.
Robbie Fatorik used to teach the turn like that, just opening up your hips as opposed to the crossover. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I if it works, it works. I didn't like it particularly.
I think the biggest key is to teach the player, don't come up with that. You're going straight ahead. That's the problem. A lot of kids, when you see them, they're standing up really once they start. So they lose that momentum. Yeah.
One of the biggest problems I've seen working with younger guys is that, so if we're skating forward and then I gotta pivot to my left to back skate to start my first back skate stride. Instead of just opening up their hips that way, they'll kind of do a shuttle. Do you know what I'm saying? Like because they're more comfortable turning to one side. Yeah. Instead of just turning to the left and opening up this way, they'll do a little hitch and then turn.
See, that's a good point there too. And this is about life too. Getting out of that comfort zone. So if your player, like a defenseman, is skating backwards and only feels comfortable going to the left or only feels comfortable going to the right, you have to you should be doing it whether they like it or not, but doing drills where they have to turn both ways because you can't have it. You see some defensemen sometimes with their youth, they should be turning towards the boards, but they're not comfortable turning that way. So they have to turn all the way around, right?
Yeah. Definitely. And that's something that coaching staff has to pick up on and have a drill to address that. But the agility part and the skating part, there's so much. Hockey's such a complex game because there's skating and stick handling and shooting and passing and being physical and then the IQ part of it. It really you can never stop learning, as we just said. Skating. Even stick handling along the ways, you learn a couple of different things. Even turning with the puck on your backhand. Used to be I have a right-handed shot, so I pull out in front of me and turn this way. Right. Now there's the other one where you're just kind of loop. You know what I'm saying? Like
totally. That's why I love hockey so much too. So the kids that learn things about their life too. If they can't do something on the ice, maybe this week or that month or that season, if they work at things, they can get better. Now they can do it, and they go, "Wow, I couldn't do that before." Right? I worked at it. That's the same thing with life or learning or school or your job. Right. That realize, okay, just because I can't do it today doesn't mean I won't be able to do it tomorrow, or the next month, or the next year.
So because hockey is such a bilateral sport, most are. I think learning a musical instrument as a kid because you're working both hands.
Yeah.
Right. Learning a martial art because everything I do right-handed, I have to be able to do it left-handed. Mm-hmm. And even boxing, we used to always teach just conventional style. Very rarely had a southpaw. Now, when I start kids, I don't even talk conventional southpaw. It's just boxing.
Yeah.
So we're going from both sides. So I think those are great supplementation to skating and everything else.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and we talked about this before, playing another sport too. I played box lacrosse in Canada all the time. And, the hockey season would still be going when we got started lacrosse and vice versa on the other end. And it was just, again, we had this discussion. I understand parents, why they get their kids into the 12 months of the year playing hockey. But if you can, man, do something else.
Well, most of the guys that I've run, over the years, numerous guys were like at 15 years of age playing for the national soccer team and also playing for the country's hockey team. Yeah, and then they made a decision. But most are very talented. And Gretzky, I think, was drafted by the Blue Jays or somebody.
Yeah, I think he's a good baseball player though. Yeah.
There's been so many. I mean, Tom Glavine, the Atlanta Braves, was drafted. I think he got drafted by Boston.
By the Kings, I believe.
Or LA Kings. Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah. No, but it's true. Yeah. Being a good athlete. Listen, there's some guys, particularly in hockey, that weren't good athletes. They just have huge hearts and they just wouldn't quit. But yeah, being an all-around good athlete sure helps. Huh? All right, everybody. Again, Mark Puttenvink, Patriot Training Systems. You can find him online. For any of your training needs, you can contact him here or on Facebook or whatever. But he's Mr. Studman. He can teach how to tan properly if you want to get a proper tan. And again, just be good. So again, I know we keep pounding this, but this coming Saturday, we have the swim across the Hudson. If you want to find out more details and or donate some money, you can go to gigofund.org and get all the details. Again, we will have a boat this year. We can go. I highly recommend that you take part in it. If you can get down there, it's a fun. You can go to Lower Manhattan and watch the guys come in out of the water from down there by the World Trade Center, but also, starting over at Liberty State Park. So get all the details at gigofund.org.
Correct.
Correct?
Yeah, perfect. That's it. Yeah.
All right, guys. All right, see you next Monday.